Dave, welcome to the podcast. We are here. I'm in my normal, can I
Yeah.
call it a studio? And you are not.
If it were, I won't try it, but I'm in a downtown Boston hotel room.
I was going to say, I was going to call you Brennan.
Yeah. Brennan or Rennie.
Yeah.
Uh, so I went to this place that screams Rennie, probably Brennan too.
Yeah.
It's called Grill 23, downtown Boston. Out of my league. Like, I didn't understand a lot of the menu. I didn't see pizza. I didn't see cheeseburgers. And get this, there was no Mountain Dew at this. How do they stay in business, these places?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there was like a handful of us. It was paid by this fumigant company. They paid for all of us. It was probably a $2,000 bill. Who knows how much, but yeah, it was
They,
something. But I got a little too close to some shrimp, so I had to run home and get some Benadryl. So I'm a little yeah.
yeah.
I'm all
Well,
right, but
I'm sure that all of our loyal subscribers, that's just a reminder, like, subscribe, comment, that all of our loyal subscribers really appreciate you pushing through your
yeah,
near-death experience to be here with us tonight.
yeah. So,
We're,
but
we're,
yeah,
we're we're recording a day early, so we are right off the heels of last night's marathon football game that had four matches that were all in the balance up
kind of about
until,
time, right? Because we've had some Mondays where it's like,
yeah, for sure. So it was definitely just pure drama, a lot of entertainment watching last night. Well, maybe not for you, but I mean a lot of entertainment watching last night.
no, it was still entertaining. I
Yeah,
was on the wrong end of things.
yeah. So that that leads us in. We'll jump right in, Dave. Who are you awarding your Miller Time Team of the Week?
I mean, I hate to be obvious, but can it go to anybody but the one that beat off all weekend? I mean, he did it. He did
Yeah,
that, what I just said.
yeah,
I mean, he was, I mean, I was almost joking in my write up when I said, he's got 50 points to make up.
yeah,
Not that three guys can't do that, but a lot has to go right,
yeah.
because all it
I
takes
mean,
is one of the three to kind of have a dud, and the other two have to get 25, you know?
well, everything broke his way. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
goodness.
Four touchdowns by Holmes and
Kelsey.
no, I just mean Mahomes threw four touchdowns. They were all to
Yeah.
Kelsey.
Yeah.
Every touchdown he threw goes to Rennie's tight end, right?
And like, they would be on the one and they would try to run it and get sacks. They had to throw, like, stupid stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Jacobs I think he's found a pretty good gem in that. I mean, he's had a resurgence, so don't
And I
take
don't
anything
know.
away from him.
I don't follow Rennie's team enough, so I don't know, and I haven't watched any Raiders football. I just see that my field goal kicker gets field goals, and I'm happy about that. But is that how he runs all the time? Because
This season.
it just looked like every
Yeah.
time he touched the ball, it was like 8 or 9 yards. I was like, well, goodness gracious, like,
Yeah, I feel like that was him a couple years ago, but then last year maybe not so much for whatever reason. I don't remember if
yeah.
he was hurt or what,
Well,
but
and watching, um, we've just talked about this before. The thing with the Chiefs, is that they have so many weapons that like you can't rely on one of them. And
yeah.
so here Rennie is in a game where he's got two Chiefs that are going to go, and so that was my concern. It was like, well, maybe one of them will hit, but the other one, and
Yeah.
so Scantling doesn't get any touchdowns, but he still just racked up
He did
yards.
just enough.
Yeah,
You know.
really. So Hardman and Juju really were non-factors, and it was really Rennie's two guys that got got everything he
So
needed.
congrats,
Plus,
Rennie. Miller
gosh,
Time Team of the Week. I think you knew it. I think he knew it, didn't he?
yeah,
He was like begging for it.
yeah,
But I mean, what can you do? You took down and even though he's not in the real standings, in our standings, we both gave him a lot of love, and I
yeah.
had him number one just because of momentum.
Well, yeah, and I said it like in the power rankings write up, which we'll get to this in a second. But really, you talk about how hot Junior's been, and he's deserved all the, the talk and everything, and he deserves his record. But, who's got the longest winning streak in our league right now? Rennie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, after that week 1 dud, he's really pulled things together. So now for our Hillbilly Harrison Hillbilly of the week, it's got to go to Ed. And the reason is because he's just not checking his lineup. So
yeah, I mean, that seems like ages ago that we talked about that, because it was like way last Thursday,
Yeah. So Ed,
and I don't think, I can't remember. I don't think it would.
No, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered this week. But it's
not the point.
Ed's team started off so strong, and then he's just been trending.
He started
down.
the draft strong. Like, he knew who he wanted. He got who he wanted. We talked about it. Then he had a good, right out of the gate. He was doing. Some of those guys were doing good. That were like, wow, okay, Ed's onto something.
Yeah.
And then he just poops it away.
Yeah. And so I play Ed this week. I want Ed to fill out a full lineup. I do. He's got a decent team if he plugs in all those pieces. I mean, Hurts can beat you single-handedly in some games. So he definitely, and against the Cowboys, that'll be a really a fun game to watch. So I want Ed to fill out a lineup, but when I was teasing you all weekend long because you had 2 guys that got zeros, but you know what I mean? Not for the same reason. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, one played 10 snaps, got hurt. The other played 6 snaps and got hurt. They're both active, but for me, since you
only if you would have had a tight end on your bench that you could have played that would have got points.
There's that, but what really, my takeaway from my match, which, and you ever get one of those haunting feelings that this certain score is going to come back to haunt you. And for me, even when I had a big lead, I kept thinking back to that Giants and Green Bay game, where the Giants, instead of punting, they did one of those dumb little run through the end zones, and they gave a free safety to Green Bay. And I just knew those 2 points were going to come back to. And what if you look at the score? If they didn't do that, if they would have punted that safety, I would have won. But you can't. I had 2 guys with 0,
right?
And I picked a different kicker because my kicker was hurt. You go up and there's like 5 kickers on free agents that scored 15 or something. I picked the one kicker that was ranked high, but he got 1 point. If he gets a field goal, I win.
Yeah, and he's had big weeks.
Yeah, so there's a lot that could have gone a little bit. Isn't that the way it goes though? All it takes is a couple of things, and Adam, for his part, he does just enough. I don't think it's crazy to think that Mahomes can get 36,
Right.
That's not nuts, but to have when he gets 36, and that's what he needed to beat me, who had a couple things that didn't go my way.
Yeah. Well, it definitely, if Mahomes plays Sunday at 1 and gets 36, nobody says anything about it. When he plays on Monday night and that's exactly what he needs, he's trailing to beat you, that makes everything different. Yeah. So all right, so we did have some major shuffling in the power rankings, and so we'll just run through that really quick. Rennie jumps up to number 1, and again, you kind of mentioned it, all about momentum. He's got the longest win streak, and he really is making up ground over Junior on points scored. So and now that I said it in the little power ranking right up, like that has nothing to do with Junior. Junior's going to be just, he's fine. He's got 4-1. He would have.
Nobody's crying for Junior.
No. And Rennie's kind of already called himself out. Like, he's got all these guys on bye coming into this week, so it may be short-lived that Rennie's number 1. But right now, he's got the number 1, the best winning win streak, and he's got all the momentum. And we just needed to change things up a little bit. So
he did it. He changed things
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
the top changed.
Yeah.
Did we
Yeah.
both agree? I didn't see your list, but did we both
Yeah.
agree?
So we both
Okay.
agreed on that 1 and 2, because otherwise Junior would have been 1 because he still has more
I
points.
see.
But so then we both had Adam at third,
Yeah.
and so I think Adam finds ways to win. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. Like we're going into a part of the season now where you got to pick up guys, you got to substitute guys, buys are coming in, and I just trust that Adam's going to do more research and know more. You know what I mean? I just think that he'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
And then in fourth place is Heim Time, and we had some discrepancies throughout all of these, but again, like the team that has the highest points goes up. So, but Brian is 4, and so I said he's 2 and 3. In
Yeah.
his two wins, he's won high points.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But I feel
So
like he's got more points overall than me, and he's had
some
maybe
bad
I had
beats.
one really low. I think I don't know that I can't remember if he's had a low, but I mean,
I
yeah.
think
I
he
mean,
was lower
but we've
last
been
week.
saying it all along about his team solid. Like,
Yes.
whereas mine, you even said roller coaster. So,
Yep.
so yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why he's up there, because he's been. It's just the wins weren't coming, but he got one this week in a dramatic, high point way. So
Yep. And so then I got a victory over Josh, and it was a lot closer than I would have liked it to been.
yeah,
This is the first time that I've won scoring less than 100, but still get to 3 and 2, and but I'm
and
not.
I had you lower
Yeah.
mainly because I had Lee above you because Lee won and he scored 20 more points than you.
Yeah. So there's I still have more overall points than Lee,
Yeah.
but he's definitely coming on strong. So, and I don't feel great about my team just in general. So there's some chinks in the Herbert armor that are starting to, you know,
Yeah, and
just
you
the
probably
Chargers
can't
and
like some guy, I don't even know his first name, Thompson, throwing balls to Tyreek Hill, and whoever that quarterback is, I didn't even know who he
yeah,
was that took
yeah,
over for Bridgewater.
it's not great.
No.
So things in Miami are not good. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. Like they're saying that maybe Tua is going to play this week, which would be amazing. So, but and then Lee, who has do you remember? I said, do you remember a time that when Lee was 12th?
Yeah. We we were really downing on the rookie running backs, and now he could just pretty much start a couple of them or several of them.
Yep. Yep. So Lee is clicking. Travis is in a free fall because I don't think that anybody trusts his team. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They just don't score enough points. He's got wins, but I don't know that anybody trusts him.
Yeah. But
So
if he keeps doing it, we can he'll have to stay in the top 10.
yeah. Then you were pretty hard on yourself, a lot harder than I
was.
was, but because you had scored yourself so low, then I think you were feeling sorry for yourself.
Well, no, I just was. I mean, maybe it's just if things can go wrong that I can't control, and
Yeah.
it's going to keep happening because it's not the first time I've had players out before they touch a ball, and so until things turn around, I'm sending my team down.
So, all right, then
But I'm
we've
in
got
a position where one win is going to, with my points, I'm going to jump right back up.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
So
who knows?
yeah, I got faith in you. I think at the end of the day, you know,
I really didn't think Lamar would only score whatever 17
Yeah.
versus the Bengals. I thought
Right.
him and Burrow would both be in the 30s.
Yeah.
Just to
So,
keep up with each other. And so that didn't happen. I mean,
yeah.
what can you do?
Yep. But it's I think you're going to be fine, Dave. I think you'll be in the top 8. I think some of these teams are showing their true colors and going to work their way back down there. So, and we got we got Brennan, who for the really showed out,
Yeah.
and you've been talking him up. You like his team. He's going to need to do a lot more of that if he wants to climb up out of the basement, though.
Yeah, that's for certain.
Yeah. And then we've got Ed, who is on his way down. And I'm sure that Josh and even Danny would love to jump places with him and get into the top 10. For that to happen for Josh, he's going to have to win some games. He's 1-4, and then Danny 0-5. Like it's now
on
or
my
never.
rankings. Danny's got a long way to go because I had him ranked infinity.
Yes, it was yeah. So
good luck with that.
Yeah, he's got to get past like an infinite amount of people before he can just even get to 12. So but yeah, so you got we didn't really have a bunch of time. We're recording a day early because of my travel schedule, fall break, and all those fun things. But so we didn't put together a whole bunch of segments. But any other takeaways from this week that you noticed that you wanted to bring up?
Other than Rennie can't figure out what to name his team.
Yeah. So I think it's a bad omen, but maybe that's just me. He's winning and he's in second place, so it's fine. But the inconsistency of it is now. Did he go back and rename his team again?
Yeah, he's back down to discount double check.
Okay.
Not sure what's
guess
going on with that.
Maybe Aaron's going back in the starting lineup and he's going back to
normal. Is that a clue?
Maybe. So yeah, he's got Rodgers. Rennie's got his lineup posted. I mean, he's only scheduled to get 82 points, but he's got his lineup in. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see Thursday morning if more. I mean, I think there'll be more transactions than there have been. It's been kind of trickling, like just a couple here and there, but there's several people that don't have somebody on their team to fill a spot for bye weeks.
Now, don't you? I mean, a few weeks ago, I used a waiver spot to pick up Tua.
Okay.
Once I use that waiver spot and then I go down to the bottom, I figure like, what do I care? So I'm gonna use a waiver instead of wait for them to come out like every week. Like
because
I'm not waiting for myself to like build back up to the top again. I could care less. I'm just gonna put in waivers, and if I get them, I get them, and if I don't, I'll pick up somebody.
I feel like anymore it's pretty rare where there's something happens during a week and then there's a certain player that like everybody knows it's going to change that team, and whoever has the number one spot, they're going to be great for the rest. I mean, that doesn't, if that most people already know that person might have that potential and already have him on their team.
Well, yeah, I mean, like almost every team, the backup running back gets some kind of touches, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're too deep on most of the running backs anyway. Yeah. And nobody so there's just not like, oh, a guy got injured and so now all of a sudden you're just like throwing somebody. It's like I'll watch those videos, they'll say, oh, here's the waiver wire pickups, and I'm like, these guys are all rostered already. You know what I mean? Like nobody doesn't seem like we're in a league that stuff is super valuable, that information.
Yeah, maybe I don't know how many years ago there used to be like a backup that hadn't touched the ball, and then as soon as the starter gets hurt, everybody runs to get him because there's all this potential. But yeah, like you said, anymore, even a guy like Madison that's under Cook, they give Madison touches because they try not to kill running backs anymore. So everybody gets touches, and so that's kind of there's not always going to be some just magic genie that's ready to be picked up that's going to change your team. I mean, there might be, but nobody knows who it is until it already happens.
Yeah, I mean, in our league, who they're saying the best possibility to pick up at quarterback right now would be Wilson for the Jets. Like, man, that'd be a rough day. You got to start him.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like.
But if you
Now,
look at the top, like this past week, if you look at the top 12, there were 2 players that were free agents. So, I mean,
any given
would you
Sunday.
a lot of people probably would have rather had one of those 2 than who they started. Not that they're going to drop their one quarterback that's great. Like, yeah, I had 17 for my quarterback, but I'm not going to drop him for Mariota, who got 21.
Right.
But
Right.
if I knew that was going to happen, I would have rather had those 4 more points.
Right. Yeah, and like, you got Walker from Seattle, Boone from Denver, Pollard from Dallas. Those are like the running backs, and somebody could probably pick one of those guys up. And Pollard
Yeah.
had a couple touchdowns last week, so you never know. But obviously, Rennie dropped him because A, didn't need him, and then
Yeah.
B, because he was not producing. And there's a couple guys from Pickens for Pittsburgh, like. How much faith does anybody have in any wide receivers from Pittsburgh right now just because of the way they're playing? So,
Yeah.
now defenses, tight ends, kickers, that's a whole different, there's always guys you're going to, like you said, those are always the guys that are the highest scoring tend to be like
Yeah.
free agents. So, but it will be
So,
interesting now that buys start this week to see kind of like
yeah.
how much people have to. I think the biggest thing is that everybody probably likes most of the guys they have on their team, and so then you're going to have to drop somebody. If you're carrying 2 defenses, maybe you got to drop one, or you really like your kicker, but do you really want to drop somebody else?
Those are tough calls. That's the thing. It's like, and there's going to be some people available. And I alluded to this a couple weeks ago in my fantasy football philosophy segment
Yeah.
that, having your eye on some people that are on somebody's team, knowing that they might have to drop them, and being ready to pounce on them is a good, strategy to build your team. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll be in a situation where I have to decide, do I want to keep my kicker for the Raiders, Carson or Carlson, which is it?
Carlson, yeah.
Yeah, Carlson. Do I want to keep him because he's been pretty good? Raiders kick a lot of field goals, or do I want to, and if I do that, if I want to keep him, that means I got to drop a backup tight end, which,
Yeah.
or
It's
or a running back or wide receiver that I haven't played yet, but
it can be
might
bittersweet
need.
when the decision is made for you. Like, I would have never dropped Rashard Penny because he had a monster week and that could happen again. But when he's out for the season, I know who
Yeah.
if I
Right.
need a spot filled, I guess I know who that's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be the guy that's on IR.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why Walker is jumped up.
Yeah. And that could have been, who knows? Like, yeah, he could take over, but it also could just been game script, and because they got another guy. There's
Right.
there's
Yeah,
another guy that
he's not the only
no,
running back.
and they're gonna have a whole week of practice without Penny, and they're gonna who knows what they're gonna do,
Yeah.
And so it's like it's not a guarantee, that guy, but and I think and like another one was I think San Francisco, Tevin Coleman had a bunch of points.
Right.
I thought he was out of the league, like
Right.
he was, and now and I don't really know why he got all those carries. Wilson did fine himself. I think that's the same team, if I remember right. But those could be one hit wonders, or it could be a trend. You don't know with 1 week, And so you run and you pick up that guy thinking he's going to duplicate it, and you could be burned, or you could be, have the gem of the of the free agent pool.
Yeah. So, well, let's look at the matchups we got for this week. Now, we don't know a ton about teams, like
Yeah.
who's going to play and who's not, because like we said, we got bye weeks coming in this week, but just the overall matchups, right? So, we'll start off. We've got you versus Travis. The thing that's interesting about this one to me is that Travis has a better record than you, but you have way more points scored than Travis. And so this is like going to be it's going to be a big game just because Travis gets another win. He's 4-2.
Yeah.
If you were to lose that to be 2-4, like that's a tough place to be. Like I feel like you got to be at that, 500 or above is kind of that, that marker that you're looking at to stay, in the playoff.
I'm already on the cusp of losing a playoff spot.
Yeah.
It's not going to help
even
me.
with all the points you've got, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So one more loss is going to hurt that. But if you win and now you're 3-3 with all the points that you've got, you're probably going to end up being more like in that 6th spot or something like
Yeah.
that, in the standings. So this is a big game for positioning, and it's still early, but the longer I can stay top 8, better I feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
let me and move up. So and a loss for Travis put him 3-3, but with his points scored, it's going to drop him down. So that'll be really interesting. Now, we had talked about like all this is random, but when you see that Junior played Rennie last week and then turns around and plays
Yeah.
Adam this week, that's a tough road coming off
Yeah.
of, oh, I'm 4-0, and now all of a sudden I play the top 2
So it's
teams that are
tough,
all tied for
but
me.
it's an opportunity because one of those guys is going to be 5-1,
Yeah.
and depending on what Rennie does, they could be in first place,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I mean, so we always talk like, you could play somebody and the outcome not really matter. Well, this is one of those ones where the outcome matters a lot,
Yeah.
right? It's like, not only do you get a victory, but you get to take the team that you're tied with and give them a loss.
And you go 5-1, you're probably not losing a playoff spot. Most,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
but you go 4-2 with a bunch more
anything can
losses,
happen.
somebody else could pass you up,
Yep. So, well, and it's just, like we've been talking, Junior's been undefeated this whole time, gets his first loss, and what happened, that you talk about the parity in our league, he goes from being in first place outright, and now all of a
tied with 2
sudden,
people.
tie, yeah, 3-way tie at the top. So this is a huge game. Another huge one that's coming up is between Lee and Brennan, because Lee's on up and coming. He's at 3-2. Sundance Kid Brennan at 2-3, and so same thing with like yours and Travis's matchup. It's like,
Yeah.
somebody's going to win this. Somebody's either going to solidify their playoff spot or is going to get knocked back down to the bottom where it gets real muddy.
Things could get real gunked up from
Yes
4 to 10.
Yeah. Yeah. We went from having a perfect bell curve to now like it's
Gonna be
it's a hot mess. Yeah, it's like life doesn't get easier for Rennie. He
no.
plays Junior, and then he comes right back, and now he's got to face Brian, Heim Time Industries that just came off a high point. So
It looks like, if I'm looking at this right, he's projected to score 104, and he's only got 8 spots filled right now on a bye week. When everybody else, like the bye week start, and I'm just looking at, I don't even,
Brian hasn't even messed with his lineup yet.
Yeah, and he's already,
Yeah. So life's pretty good for Brian, and for Rennie, he gets no rest coming right off of that.
Yeah.
And so again, we said it like this whole thing of being number 1 in the power rankings could be short lived, but he earned it. But
Yeah.
now he's got to turn around and do it again. The battle of who cares, but really it does matter, because one of these teams gets a chance to try to claw out of a hole, and the loser will be really, it's going to be tough to claw. If Danny goes 0-6, let me tell you from experience, you're not coming back from that. Okay, that's just, it's too,
but
you'd
then
have to win all the
go
rest.
1-5,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have a hard time making the playoffs.
Yeah, but 2-4, you get on, you got a chance to maybe to climb out of that thing, because Josh really does have has a decent team. You know what I mean? He's got.
Yeah.
So but and then I play Ed, and if Ed wants to right his ship,
Yeah.
that'll happen now. What is Ed in the standings? Is he still in top 8 in the standings? I don't think he is.
Well, he's tied for.
He's
There's a bunch
he's
of
in
us
ninth,
tied for 7th.
but he's in ninth. I mean, he's right there knocking on the door, right? Like he's not out of it by any means, but he's got to do something this week. He can't. So that, and then, but we've got buys. I got players to fill in before this, but neither one of us, like, I don't have 105 projection like Brian does.
Yeah, with 8 players.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody had 104 before the game started last week with full line,
So, so that's another, scores have been a little bit lower. You notice that?
You mean like outside of whoever gets high points, or just
Well, even the high points was only 125, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
But a lot less
maybe
teams
some
scored
of that
100.
was outside of Josh Allen. There wasn't a lot of big scoring. Kansas City and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Those two games involved a lot of scoring, but there were a lot of maybe lower scoring games.
Yeah, I just 7 teams scored less than 100, and 2 of them that did were 102 and 101. So, just
and one of those that went over 100 had to do it all in one night.
Yes. Yes. So
with 3 players.
But so we're week 6. After week 7, we'll have completed half of our regular season.
Yeah.
So we'll look to in a couple weeks we'll do some mid-season kind of review. We'll look at who was drafted and were they a bust, or were they who got the most value out of it. We can look at some of that stuff and kind of see. But it's
better,
interesting.
More data to support, like if you say this wasn't a very good pick at that spot, kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Now, I mean, we know, like, if somebody got injured and they were a first round pick and they're not playing the rest of the season, like, obviously that's one thing. But like we talked about this a couple weeks ago. What we're really talking about is somebody's going to play every game, but still not perform. You know what I mean?
They're taking a spot and you can't not put them in, or you don't feel like you can, and they're just killing you.
Yeah. So, but well, Dave, I don't
know if you still have. Do you still have the banner, the Miller Fantasy Football Philosophy?
Oh, it didn't go up the first time.
It didn't go up the first time. Okay, that shows you whether I watched that whole episode.
Yeah, I said, hey,
so
we can do it again. Okay. Right. Dave, we're going to do a new segment that Dave does, Fantasy Football Philosophy, and we're going to put the banner for that right here.
All right, because I want to bring up drafting. It's been 5. We've had 5 weeks, and so back to different ways that you can approach the draft, and everybody has their own style and all that. So, and there's a ton of different ones, and there's always somebody new that comes up with the Mike Berries of the world or whoever, and they have these different approaches, and they call them by these fancy names,
Okay, so like it used to be like the where like you draft running back, right?
Yeah.
Like
so then
recently
it's like the 0 running back and all this different stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily giving like the giving a name kind of thing, but picture the person that what they like about this whole thing is draft day, showing up, being around all the guys. They like, now that we have the group chat all year long, just chatting about stuff, now we're throwing a podcast out there for them, that kind of stuff. But they don't want to really be bothered with the football part. And so basically they're the kind that, I'm just going to show up to the draft. Somebody's going to hand me this piece of paper. When it's my turn, I'm going to look and see who the highest, is still available. And I'm going to say that name. And then I'm not even going to look at that paper. I'm going to eat my chicken. I'm going to drink, some beverages. And then when it's my turn, hey, it's your turn again. Oh, okay. You go and you pick out the next player.
Yeah. And if you see, And if you see a team you like, even better.
Whatever. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you just kind of use the paper to
Right.
follow it. And you know what? With the way things go, with luck on both sides of things, positive, you can win some games doing that and have
Yeah.
fun doing it and not have to bother with any of the thinking and all that stuff. So that's one kind of draft strategy. The other is you just kind of alluded to
So we
is the
put that one over
fan.
here. That's like
Yeah.
that's
So another one is sort of the fan approach of it's your team. So you want to have the guys that you want to root for, and you don't want to have the guys that you don't want to root for on certain teams. And so,
right.
you might be heavy on a certain team,
Go Steelers.
Bengals, Raiders back in the wheat days,
Mhm.
New England, Ed kind of stuff, and so you want to pick guys from either teams you like or guys you like because they used to play on your team that you like, or you don't want people from teams you don't like. So say you like the Bengals, so you're never going to pick a Raven, a Steeler, or a Brown, or anybody that played for them, and so when you look at your team, you want guys either you like, or at least you're indifferent to, so you can root for them. So that's
Yeah.
another strategy. That way you're not, come Sunday, you don't have to like root against somebody on your own team. And you know what? Even that strategy you can probably win some games with because of dumb luck and
It does help if your team's good. If the
it
team you
does
like is
probably help.
good. Yeah.
Adam picks a lot of Kansas City guys because he likes them, and they've been pretty good for a while. So that
Yeah.
does, that does him pretty well. So another approach, and I don't have this one totally flushed out as well, but it's kind of the trying to pick, like focus on people that can win you a position. So like I think people naturally do that, picking running backs and wide receivers early because the good ones, what people think might be good that are gonna that week, any given week, who's gonna be the top, five to win those
Yeah.
positions, you better get them early. And that's kind of
Well,
the
it's funny. You know
philosophy.
what? I don't know that I've ever thought. Now, I use it as a litmus test after the pick. Like, where does my running back, where does my wide receiver rank?
Yeah.
But I don't know that I've ever gone into it thinking I'm going to make this pick because I hope that this wide receiver is the best wide receiver. Like it's always like I hope this wide receiver gets me a crap ton of
Okay.
points. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And so it
Like
could be semantics, but it's is there a path for that player most most weeks for you to win the week? Do they get enough touches? Are they
yeah,
on a good team with a good quarterback? So you kind of play into that, like, are they going to be able to win you a position that week? And so that's why, why, whether people think about it this way or not, it's why you probably don't pick a defense or a kicker because or too early, because if just like this week, if you go and look, what happened last week, there were kickers available that won their weeks.
right.
You don't have to pick them early. If you can get them later, there's a good chance. Whereas running backs and wide receivers, if you look at the list, there are some here and there, but it's tough to pick them off the waiver wire and know they're going to do what they did. And so the scarcity of, the availability of kickers and defenses,
Yeah. But even
but
with But even with quarterbacks, like what they'll tell you, or at least what I'll hear, is that, and maybe tight ends to some extent, is that okay, you pay a premium to get the guy that's going to win his position or
yeah,
who we project is going to. But then, and maybe there's only two people vying for that, two tight ends vying for that,
yeah.
two quarterbacks vying for that, and then everybody else, the separation between them and whoever else is out there is so small that it
So
doesn't
you better
matter.
be right. Kind
Yeah.
of like with
Well,
the
like if you're going to
quarterback
pick a
and with the tight
quarterback in
end,
round 2 or 3,
because if you're
yeah,
not right and you gave up a chance at picking a running back or wide receiver that might win you a week, and you picked the tight end, like a good example of me with I took a flyer on Waller again, and so far he hasn't won me weeks, and I could have picked another. I would have rather at this point have gone with a running back or wide receiver and picked up Hurst or ever, somebody later that's going to get me 5 points,
right.
and instead of trying to get 15 to 20 out of the tight end spot, because if you don't get Kelsey and you're trying to
Yeah.
pick the next guy,
Yeah, but even with Kelsey wasn't I mean, because of last year, there was just a lot of talk that maybe Kansas City was done, right?
yeah,
Like all these guys are getting older.
yeah, it's no,
Stock on these
obviously
guys was
it's never guaranteed. So this kind of thinking, obviously the beginning part of the
to
draft, it plays
win the
into it some.
position.
But I feel like it's the later parts of the draft is when you have to pick between a couple people and you're like, well, I could go with this guy because he always gets touches. So using like this philosophy of you're trying to win a position, then you might take a bigger risk and go with either a rookie that nobody knows anything about or a third wide receiver that under the right conditions, like a Tyler Boyd, that
Right.
will just happen to get all the touchdowns that week and could win you, a week, or a backup that that if the starter gets hurt, he's in line for a ton of touches. So you go with him, even though most weeks he gets no touches. Even though now we've talked, he might get a few. It used to be that they got none, but a few is not going to win you a week. It's taking loading up your team with guys that under the right circumstances could have a blow up week instead of loading up with guys that are you can always plug in because they could always get you five. And it's like it's the kind of the philosophy what we talked about with Josh last week with who would you want between A and B, that kind of thing. So I mean, obviously those are just three of the billion different types of draft strategies, and most people probably do a combination of everything. They just kind of go with their gut. Some people do a ton of research and think along these lines of they want a certain number of points at each position, and so they pick that
But wouldn't
way.
you say that like everybody, different people value different things? You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the running back zero or the wide receiver, you know what I mean? It's like you kind of look at the trends of teams are running the ball a lot less. So you can either say, man, really good running backs are even more valuable now than they were 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, everybody was running the ball. Or you could be like, running backs don't have any value. I'm going wide receiver heavy. If I can get 3 top 20, you know what I mean? If all 3 of my wide receivers are in the top 10, 15 of like the standings, like that's going to give me my best chance to win.
Maybe that's playing into a little bit of Lee's resurgence is these running backs are finally starting to hit that he picked way late in the draft.
Right.
And he went, and his wide receivers that he picked early are pulling their weight, and that's getting him some wins. It backfired early in the season because he didn't have the running back points, but that kind of strategy of waiting but he kind of did what I said. He picked running backs that under the right circumstances could get a bunch of touches. He didn't pick, a guy that's always going to get 3 touches or 5 touches. He picked rookie guys that might win that spot and start being the number 1 running back.
Yeah. And what's interesting, like when you talk about philosophy too, like one of the things that I was noticing last year on my team that was so abysmal was when I started looking at my lineup, and I didn't know it going into the season because you just don't know, but by the end of the season, it was evident that like I had some guys on my team who, even though they were number 1 position on their team, those teams were just ended up being really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so teams that weren't scoring a lot of points, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like you want to have players that, that's why, over the last couple of years, over the last 5 years, having Kansas City Chiefs players has been such a bonus, even if they spread the ball around, they score so many points, right? They rack up so many yards. Whereas if you're going to be, on a team like
Bears, like Mooney is an awesome wide receiver. He had an awesome catch this past week over his head, but he doesn't get enough balls thrown his way because they can't sustain drives.
Right.
And Fields throws it for 100 yards max every week. So,
right.
Even a great wide receiver is stuck with the amount of touches they get and the amount of
although
plays.
They said Kelce had 20. Did Kelce end up with 25 yards last night?
Yeah. But because he had other people on his team that could get the ball all the way down for him to get that touchdown. If they were dependent on him, then obviously they would have doubled him all the time, and maybe they were doubling, and then down the end zone, in the end zone, red zone, it's tough to double because it's just there's too much. There's not enough space to cover. You know. So that's just I just kind of wanted to bring that up of I know every year we get to the draft and it's kind of you always want to think of what people are going through, there's probably some people that do a little of all of that, that, oh, let's just pick the next guy, or I'm going to go with my favorite player. It's probably why I always had Philip Rivers and
Yeah.
stuff like that on my team. You
Yeah.
kind of get locked in
Yeah, I
with a
think,
certain guys.
well, I think everybody wants somebody on their team to really be able to root for, somebody you like
Yeah.
or identify with. And some of it's like, oh, this player did good for me last year. And so you can get lulled into that, like, oh, I want to root for them again. And, it doesn't always work out, that somebody's going to put up the same kind of numbers they did last year or have the same, there's so many different things that kind of happen with that. But, well, Dave, I'm glad you stayed alive
Yeah, I'm all
during this
right.
entire
I'm gonna get
podcast.
some rest here. Do you want to take a quick look at the ESPN projection thing? Did it change much?
Oh, yeah, let me Rennie actually posted it in the group chat. So the hard thing about it is that like it changes from week to week, and so when we pull it up, we can only see what it's doing based on the original. So it doesn't
Okay.
like, like where I on the power rankings will say, oh, this person moved up or
I see.
down 2 spots from last week. This thing's kind of like fluid. So in the very beginning of the season, it had Junior ranked first. Now it's got him second. It
Okay.
had Rennie ranked second. Now it's got him first. It had Brennan third. It's dropped him down to seventh. It had me at fourth. I moved back a spot at fifth, even though I won. Again, you never, know
Yeah.
what it's thinking here.
It still has a lot of faith in me.
It does not have faith in Adam. He's moved down to from fifth to sixth. Polk High
crazy?
School. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that.
Yeah.
I guess
I guess total points scored or just something.
Maybe.
Polk High School, it started the season with him at sixth. He's all the way down at 12th. Time Industries, it started at seventh. He's moved all the way up to third. So it does like Brian. It sees what we were seeing.
Yeah.
Josh, it's got it ninth from eighth. Ed from 9th to 11th. Rat Trappers from 10th all the way up to 4th. It loves you, Dave. Show Me Your TDs started at 11th. It's got him up to 8th and climbing. Vote Flex from 12th to 10th. So still, here's the teams that it's projecting right now will be outside of the playoffs. Travis, Ed, Ratty, and Danny. So
the one that sticks out is Travis because he's got more wins than a lot of the
Brennan.
people that are.
Yeah. So it's got Brennan at 7th. So that'll be the thing to watch. See who ends up making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. I think I got screenshots of some of these from as they've been going, but so.
Well, I probably won't. I'm going to hold off as long as possible, probably, to do the write-up because I don't even know what my team's going to look like, far less everybody else's.
Who plays Thursday night? Do you know?
I do not know.
Is it the Bears?
Oh yeah, Bears.
Bears and Commanders.
Bears and Commanders.
Yeah. Washington versus Chicago. 1-4.
You probably almost assume there's not going to be a ton of players, but started.
Yeah. That'll be a low one, I think. Low impact on fantasy.
Yeah, like there might be a few, like Mooney might be,
Did you hear Ron Rivera talk about his quarterback?
No, what'd he say?
They said, what separates you from the other teams in the East? And he said, quarterback play.
Well, is what it is, right?
Yeah.
They're grown men that get paid a lot of money. I think they can handle it.
Yep. So Bengals Saints will be fun.
Yeah. I don't know if Jameis will be back or if it'll be old Andy Dalton. Wouldn't that be something?
Andy already's who did he beat the Bengals with? Was it the Bears?
Was he with the Cowboys last year?
He was with the Bears last year. I think he beat the Bengals with the Bears last year.
I can't keep up with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be kind of interesting. So
yeah.
So where are you headed? You're going somewhere the next 2 days?
We're just going to Columbus, Ohio for 2 days. We're going up there tomorrow to the Columbus Zoo and then spending the night and then going to Kosai the next day. So
see Junior's family's exhibit. I can't remember what animal that is, but
Yeah,
where he
probably.
comes from.
Yeah. So, thanks everybody for
Yeah.
watching. Dave, hope you feel better. Stay
Benadryl's
away from
kicking
the
in.
shellfish.
Yeah, it was that place. I had some sort of maple salmon. It was really good. But yeah, it was out of my league. The whole place. No Mountain Dew. What kind of restaurant doesn't serve Mountain Dew?
Dave, let me ask you a question.
And if you don't have Mountain Dew, you don't even have Mellow Yellow. I mean, how do they stay in business?
If you have an allergy to seafood, but then you order seafood.
No, I can eat. It's just shellfish, but I'm sure they cook it on the same. That's probably where I ran into some trouble.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I'm just saying.
I'm alive. My throat's not closing up. The Benadryl's kicking in.
Okay. All right. Well, I will be back in time to live chat on Thursday night, and we will we'll be talking about a game that nobody cares about.
Exactly. See you, everybody.
Yeah. See ya.